Time to do that.
Okay, President Kirkbride, we're all set.
You, Staff Member Melvin. Now we will hear from Executive Director Ryan regarding rules in development.
Executive Director Running. Good morning, everyone. As always, I'd like to thank everyone online for taking time on your busy schedule to listen to me yammer on for a bit throughout the morning. The general disclaimer while you're doing that, probably shouldn't drive or operate heavy machinery. And with that out of the way, first I'd like to reiterate what a success this rules prioritization list has been. It's improved visibility, enhanced transparency, and helped us intently focus our efforts on unifying staff action with board direction. And since the June meeting, we've been working on the items you'll see today. Mobile pharmacy rules and protocols related to pharmacist-based prescribing of vaccines, and rules related to changes in pass-through fees, such as the workforce data collection fee. Additionally, I want to mention that the work does not stop once the rule is passed. So I'd like to recognize all the work that Staff Member Melvin puts in after these meetings, as it takes an exorbitant amount of technical prowess, attention, and dedication to ensure that these rules are filed correctly and within the appropriate time frame. And between this meeting and next, we'll continue working on our highest priority items, which are the SCSA rules, and you'll hear more about those shortly from Staff Member Efremoff, and rules related to health professional services programs and their monitoring agreements. And to wrap up the section, I'd like to thank everyone who's reached out over the last 6 months to provide us with feedback, whether via our PFAC meetings, rulemaking hearings, SurveyMonkey polls, or public comment at the end of our board meetings. We hope you continue to engage with us, and we hope to hear from you soon. President Kirkbride, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. We will now review and discuss mailing number A related to workforce data collection fee with Staff Member Melvin.
Thank you, Staff Member Melvin. For the board's consideration today, we have proposed a temporary rule, which would temporarily amend our rule by increasing the mandatory workforce data collection fee from $4 to $8 as required by the Oregon Health Authority. And the reason it needs to be a temporary rule is that we cannot have any gaps because this is a mandatory process for anyone that renews their license. So that is why this is being filed as a temporary rule. The agency does not have any control over these fees. This is all handled by the Oregon Health Authority, which I have cited the statute in our rule summary right there, OAR 409-026-0130. They noticed us that they filed permanent rulemaking. They made it effective 7/7 of 2026. So in OAR 855-110-0005, and this is going to be in paren 5, little c. You're going to see that change from $4 to $8. And then you're also going to see it change, that would be for pharmacists. And then under 7, little b, you're going to see it change for pharmacy technicians. And you're also going to see it change in 8, little b, for certified Oregon pharmacy technician, or COPT. So back to you, President Kirkbride, for board discussion.
Thank you. We do have time for board discussion. Are there any board members who wish to speak on this topic? I don't know that we need to. Oh,
Just quick, Board Member Joyce, because I'm always asked by other technicians and other staff, like, what is this fee about? And to me, it's clear. It's a data collection on where people work and so forth. That's clear, right? When we're renewing our license and this pops up as the additional fee, it's clear what it's for, because I've been asked often about, like, what is this extra $4 you're paying? Now it's going to be $8, but it's just, I just want to make sure it's clear, because I get that question a lot, what it's for. I mean, to me it seems clear, but as long as it's clear on the public side, on the website, what it's for. So anyways, just thanks.
Thank you, Board Member Joyce. Any other board members want to speak on this topic? Okay, with that, is there a motion to move to adopt temporary rule OAR 855-110-0005 as proposed to be effective upon filing?
So move board member Smith.
Seconded, board member Kroger.
Go. Board Member Kirkbride, yes. Board Member Kroger,
Yes.
Board Member Chin,
Yes.
Board Member Hall,
Yes.
Board Member Joyce,
Yes.
Board Member Maslow,
Yes.
Board Member Smith.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. We will now review and discuss mailings A1, A1A, and A1B regarding a temporary rule for amended influenza and RSV vaccine protocols with Executive Director Rudd.
Executive Director Runyon, I'll now speak about mailing A1A. As we continue to navigate public health matters, uncertainty at the federal level remains a significant issue, and it extends well beyond vaccine access. To give you an example of how rapidly the landscape can shift, the very hour I was preparing the PFAC meeting and presentation earlier this week, we received notice that the president was signing an executive order regarding childhood vaccine recommendations, which included a directive to split the MMR vaccine into its 3 separate constituents. I'm not here to speak on that specific order or any of the politics associated with it, but I would like to raise that to illustrate the unpredictability we're dealing with. Because of that, and in line with the strategic vision behind creating the West Coast Health Alliance last summer, I've been working tirelessly behind the scenes since June 2nd to secure state-level solutions that safeguard vaccine access for the Oregonians we are committed to serving. That brings us to the protocols I presented to the PFAC earlier this week. In summary, there are very few changes, but the updates would include, in the What's New section, we've provided an update on the anticipated meeting schedule of the West Coast Health Alliance and its primary recommending bodies. We've removed any references to seasonal vaccine formulations where appropriate, and we've also removed the links to seasonal prescribing information that you would typically find at the end of many influenza protocols. So the overarching goal here with these amendments was to mirror the universal language present in the West Coast Health Alliance recommendations. And by doing so, I hope to make our protocols much more nimble, significantly reducing the amount of administrative work required year over year as new updates inevitably emerge. So now we'll take a look at one of these specific protocols, the influenza. So I changed the tense under the What's New section, and this was put in last year to introduce everyone to the concept of the West Coast Health Alliance and identify the primary recommending bodies upon which the recommendations are based. And then in B, we have an update on the anticipated meeting schedule, again, based off the meeting schedule of those primary recommending bodies. I also sent this general information out in a couple of eGov blasts just to keep our licensees updated on where we were in dealing with this behind the scenes.
Delivery. How do you go? Sorry.
And we'll scroll down. And one thing we did change, instead of making the protocols reference a particular volume of administration, for example, I think previously we had in 2A administer a 0.25 to 0.5 ml dose IM of an appropriate influenza vaccine. We took that out, and instead the PFAC recommended changing that to an FDA approved dose. And there are a couple of reasons for that. And the high dose vaccine used to be 0.7 ml. I think a couple of years ago it changed to 0.5. So that would represent another amendment that we'd have to make in protocol. And this year there's an mRNA based flu vaccine. I think the volume for that's 0.38. So we would have had to change that as well. So again, in the spirit of making this as universal as possible and reducing the amount of administrative red tape required to update these year over year, we took that out. And we made the same change there into B, administer an FDA approved dose of the intranasal formulation. And of course, we took some of the references out. So we amended the references within the protocol. And we have the version there. Of course, this is August 2026. And in line with the general changes that I mentioned to begin with, we updated this particular table. And again, we wrote FDA approved dose of an appropriate influenza vaccine. And we changed that date to reflect this year. So it would be July 1st, 2026. And you see the same changes to the references there and the FDA approved dose verbiage.
I like this yellow, but
And we'll end with the references section. Again, we took out all of the references to the season-specific vaccine formulations. And we have the original West Coast Health Alliance recommendations, and then a reference to an infectious disease article about immunocompromised individuals and vaccine recommendations for those that's still valid.
on this, and then I'll open the other.
And President Kirkbride, I'll turn it back over to you for board discussion related to this influenza protocol.
Thank you. I do have one question. First, I just want to commend the PFAC committee for their work, not only urgently meeting on this topic, but also attempting to make it more universal so that we can more quickly get these resources out to our vaccinators, both pharmacists and technicians. My question kind of relates to both of these. As we look at this season, of reversing course and adopting our own protocols versus following West Coast, do we anticipate that we will use these protocols throughout the whole season, or will we potentially adopt the West Coast recommendations once they come out? And just my comment towards that would be simplicity for licensees. My preference would be that once we release this protocol, we use it for the whole season and not try to pivot mid-season with slightly different or altered recommendations. But do you have any comment on that?
Executive Director, yes, thank you for the question. So in working tirelessly behind the scenes with the powers that be, my understanding is that it's not likely that there will be any changes at all, especially to the specific recommendations for the influenza vaccine. And if we were to pull up the West Coast Health Alliance recommendations from last year, there are 3 columns or 3 rows, and they split up into children, pregnant individuals, and adults. And it's a very general and simple recommendation from them. Basically, all of those are recommended to get a flu vaccine, and that's about the extent of it. So even when those are updated, we think at the end of September after they meet, I don't look for any substantive changes at all. And so I don't think that would require an update from us. And even if it did, I wouldn't anticipate it would be anything more than just referencing that at the bottom in 9. So that we are giving a reference to an updated link. I don't think anything outside of that would substantively change, if that makes sense.
Thank you. I will open it up for any other board member who wishes to speak on this topic. Member Kroger.
Member Kroger, I think with what you just stated, Gary, this section in B, I think could be a little confusing. Are we waiting for new recommendations in September? Are we going to have pharmacists who are going to feel hesitant in providing vaccines with that statement in there about, hey, we're expecting something else to come? I appreciate the information and the clarity and maybe the transparency you're trying to provide in that statement. I just don't know if it's really should be part of the protocol necessarily. And especially with, if we're not necessarily expecting major changes, I don't know if that statement makes sense there to me. So that's kind of my comment on that for flu. Also appreciate the PFAX work and your work on this. I know that you are limited in some ways of like what you can do and what our board rules and the statutes allow. But this needs to be a topic until we can get this smoothed out for all of our licensees year after year. I've been in Oregon for 10 years now, and I don't think there's been a flu season that hasn't had some sort of swirl around it when it comes to protocols. And it's not fair to the public, and it's definitely not fair to our licensees to not know when can I give the flu shot, something that is so standard, that has been done for so long, that we have, you know, licensees worried about, am I going to be getting in trouble if I provide this pretty standard common vaccine at this point? So I don't think that once we get through this particular phase, that we need to stop problem solving on how do we make this, not just for flu, but maybe for all of our vaccines, something that our pharmacists can more easily navigate. Thank you, Board Member Kroger. Board Member Joyce?
Board Member Joyce, no, I somewhat disagree. I mean, I appreciate the transparency of this for sure, and I think this kind of reassures us in light of today's political environment, that this is out there, that we do have the West Coast Health Alliance, and you know, they are well aware of the political climate, and trying to be as transparent as possible as far as potentially what's ahead. So thanks for the work on this, Gary and the PFAC committee.
Thank you, Board Member Joyce. Any other board members want to speak on the influenza protocol? Okay.
So we're gonna open A1B as our next one. So give me just a second.
Is there a motion to?
Oh, I'm sorry, President Kirkbride,
Yes.
this is Staff Member Melvin. Executive Director Runyon needs to present the other mailing,
Yep,
and then
I
we need
just
to look
saw
at the
that.
rule. Thank
Yep,
you.
I just saw that.
Okay, give me just a second. I'll
They're
open it.
together.
No worries.
Shall we?
Executive Director Runyon will now speak on mailing A1B for the RSV vaccine protocol. So you have the same changes there in 1A and B, and I appreciate both of the comments related to that notice in 1B. And you'll see a few highlights here. This was just a preferential thing. We had references in 3, numbered 1, 2, and 3. And we also had references at the end of the protocol with the same numbers. So 1, 2, 3, etc. So to keep those differentiated, we just changed them to the characters that you see there, just to make sure that the individuals were aware that these were references in the table to the information below the table as opposed to the end of the protocol. And other than that, those are the only changes that we made. As we know, this does not have a seasonal formulation to it.
Thank you, Executive Director Runyon. Any board members have comments, questions regarding the RSV protocol updates? Not seeing any hands, so we can look at the rules now.
Executive Director, and one thing I will mention related to the concern about the notice we have in there, we do have a PFAC meeting, I think tentatively scheduled for the very end of September. So once we anticipate those recommendations coming out, we could take that amended protocol back to them. And we could even take that out, for example, or amend the what's new section to reflect that. So there isn't that, there isn't the opportunity for any confusion there. And we could, of course, bring that back to the October meeting, just a couple weeks or a week or so after that.
Okay, this is staff member Melvin. So this is going to be mailing A1. This is our temporary rule that simply amends the versions in OAR 855-1150-345. And this is going to amend 5, little b and little c. And all it's doing, again, it's amending your version from January here to August and from September to August 2026 for RSV. And again, the justification for this being a temporary rule is to allow the pharmacies to start using this current vaccine. So back to you, President Kirkbride.
I do have one question regarding the rules. So we pulled these out in a new section that says board excluded protocols when we started using West Coast recommendations last year. If we're gonna now be using our own protocols, would these still be board excluded protocols?
Executive Director Runyon, yes, they're board excluded because they're not tied to the ACIP
Okay,
recommendations, essentially.
okay. Meaning they're not grouped in with the big list in the main protocol. They live on their own and so therefore excluded. Okay, that makes sense. There's a lot to wrap our heads around and changes frequently. Thank you. Other board members, questions about the rule changes you see here?
Kroger, Board Member Kroger. I understand where we're at with coronavirus and the limitations that we currently have. What work is being done from your perspective, if this is an appropriate time to share, what can we expect around the COVID vaccine?
Executive Director Runyon, I anticipate, because the primary recommending bodies are scheduled to meet for RSV and COVID-19 vaccine recommendations in September, I think mid-September, that those recommendations would then feed into the West Coast Health Alliance, into their update at the end of September. So we would have that information hopefully before the PFAC meeting. It would be incorporated into the protocol there.
Okay, thank you.
The board members? Okay, I think we're good on rule. Is this the only rule piece or?
Staff member, yes, for this particular rule, yes.
One quick question.
Board member Joyce.
Board Member Joyce, so you anticipate like an October follow-up on the ACIP, or on the meeting from September? Is that timeframe wise, is that roughly?
Executive Director, and yes, that's what we anticipate.
Early October.
And that's actually one of the reasons that we had rescheduled, preemptively rescheduled the PFAC meeting, which I think was initially scheduled for September 3rd. But knowing the likely timeline of all of these components, we had tentatively rescheduled it to the end of September, so we could catch those recommendations with enough time to make those amendments, present them to the PFAC, and then bring it to the board. First available chance, which ideally would be October.
Okay. Board member Kroger.
I'm so sorry, Board Member Kroger. So is there, sorry, calendaring those dates, how big of a gap between when the PFAC is meeting and our next board meeting? Because I don't, if there are new recommendations that PFAC is going to incorporate, I don't know why we wouldn't try and adopt those as quickly as possible as a board. Is it like the very next week? Like I said, I don't have my calendar in front of me, but to me, I guess I'm hinting at, would we need an emergency board meeting to adopt temporary rules and get that rolling?
Executive Director, and it, would you need one? It would be up to the discretion of the board. You would need one to adopt them. Is it necessary to have that? in that gap, that's not for me to answer. We could certainly arrange whatever the board directs. I anticipate it would be about a week and a half or so. But again, happy to arrange whatever you feel is necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Executive Director Runyon. Staff member Melvin just confirmed it's a week and a half.
When the PFAC would meet and have updated recommendations for a protocol for our review, it'd be a week and a half before we would see it would be officially presented to us.
Correct.
And this is staff member Melvin. Similar to last year, what that would require is, so like tomorrow, I'm going to file this temporary rule and it will be effective tomorrow, right? If this does happen in this order, we will then suspend that current temporary rule and you'll have to vote again on another temporal. So it kind of unwinds and starts over. That's valid for another 180 days, but we would then ask you at the October board meeting to send it to the November rulemaking to be permanently adopted in December. And I'm sorry, we do wish there was a simpler way to do this.
No, this is not on you, board member Kerr, this is not on either. That's administrative procedures, totally understand. I think my concern, and would love to hear if there's other board members, understanding that it isn't necessarily as urgent or an emergent of a situation that we've had in years past with the COVID vaccine. But in general, delays in the ability for pharmacies to vaccinate, I think are, it gives me some heartburn, right? Like, why are we waiting a week and a half when we, can get a shot in an arm and potentially, protect somebody in that time frame? So like my personal, preference would be is that once the PFAC has their meeting, that we would turn around with an emergency meeting to get those temp rules, but I'm just one board member.
This is board member Chin. I'm not being pharmacy. I'm just trying to understand the concern about not getting immunizations into people's arms. Did these temporary rules not apply to people getting their immunizations now when it's appropriate?
COVID specifically is my concern.
We're off on a little bit of a tangent, but this would be the time to have that discussion. Board member Kroger is asking that when the COVID recommendations come out, if we can have an emergency board meeting to adopt them rather than wait a week and a half to our normally scheduled board meeting. So, point of clarification, would that meeting be able to be a virtual meeting?
Staff member Melvin, yes, absolutely. I think what we would need to discuss is if it is a justification for an emergency meeting. There's a difference between special meeting and emergency meeting. So I would need to discuss with board counsel. It is very rare that the board would call an emergency meeting. It requires just there's special components that come along with an emergency meeting versus a special meeting.
Well, for a special meeting, would that be possible in this case and more appropriate then? Or is that
So-
also? Yeah, go ahead.
Board Counsel Bertoni, although I understand the board members are describing sort of an emergency need to actually get jabs into arms. You have a few weeks yet before this. You could just notice this meeting. It would be a regularly scheduled meeting of the board. Emergency meetings are scheduled with like 24 hours notice. Those are under extraordinary. Somebody just dropped the bubonic plague bomb on Portland and pharmacy needs to do something fast. You've got a runway of time, so you could actually schedule the meeting now. Cover all your calendars and set your DVRs so that you could do, you could do it in the evening, virtual only. Will be well noticed in advance of time, and then just have this one agenda item. You just wouldn't get your contents of the meeting, your paperwork, until the PFAC had met. Does that help you sort of procedurally and give Rachel Melvin what she needs?
My comment would be that I don't think we know when these recommendations are gonna come out, and so we could schedule the meeting and have it ready to go, but in reality, we may not have, and PFAC may not have recommendations to discuss.
Staff member Melvin. So yes, in this case, what we typically do, kind of like what we did this week, we convened a special PFAC meeting, which I noticed last Friday, which met the criteria of a special meeting, brought them together as long as we have a quorum, and again, as long as we have the data to amend, right? So that part has to happen first. Then we could turn around and convene a special board meeting.
That seems to make more sense to me, just because we will be reacting to what we receive. And we have an avenue to do that, it sounds like. So I'm gonna go around to board members and get, see if we can get consensus on whether or not you would like to see a special meeting very quickly after the PFAC meets, or wait to our regular board meeting. Again, we don't know the exact timing on all of these things, but right now what we do know is there is about a week and a half gap between the currently scheduled PFAC meeting and our board meeting. So we'll start with board member Kroger. Executive Director Runyon would like to speak.
Executive Director, so one thing that might help board members vote before you go around, we're obviously talking about a gap from the PFAC meeting to the regularly scheduled board meeting. But for additional context, that's a gap on top of what would already be a gap, because I think if I had to guess, if it's in line with the distribution of past seasons, probably going to see these things sitting on pharmacy shelves like early September to mid-September. So that is already a 2-week gap in between, or 2 or 3 between when they'll be on pharmacy shelves and when the PFAC meets. So some of you might be thinking, oh, it's just 10 days. Actually, it's longer than that if you piece it all together, from the time that these are likely to hit pharmacy shelves to the regularly scheduled board meeting. So just in the event that that might factor into your decisions. President Kirkbride, I'll turn it back to you.
I could see that potentially being more like potentially 6 weeks or so. So board member Kroger.
Remember Kroger, I would like a special meeting as soon as possible after the PFAC to adopt temporary rules, if we have what we need at that point.
Thank you, board member Joyce.
Board Member Joyce, yes, I definitely agree. There's a lot of things to consider, including supply, and everything else that goes hand in hand with vaccines. So yeah, as soon as possible, a special meeting.
Member Smith.
Member Smith, yeah, I agree. Yeah, as soon as we can get something done, that'd be great. Thank you.
Member Maslow.
Member Maslow, I agree. I would be in favor of a special meeting.
Member Chin.
Member Chen would be in favor of a special meeting.
Member Hall.
Yes, I'm in favor.
I'm as well. Looks like we're unanimous. So we'll give you that guidance and we'll figure that out kind of as we see these COVID recommendations come in, and we know the PFAC meeting is happening and when it's happening, and get this special meeting scheduled. Thank you, everybody, for your input. Other comments and questions before we vote on the influenza and RSV? So COVID is not included in this package today.
This board section, the only comment I had was that, Council Bertoni had mentioned an evening, and I would support evening just because of my schedule, but I don't know if that works for everybody else's schedule.
Staff member Melvin, I can answer that. What will happen is, as soon as we have all of the details and everything kind of aligned, I will send the board a doodle poll, and you will all respond with time slots, and we will choose the date and time that works for the majority of and the quorum. Right, so we need 5 of you to be available, and I would anticipate that this would be an hour to an hour and a half type of time commitment, because we will not do any other regular board business typically at this type of meeting. It would just be.
Understood. I can't reschedule peeps. That's
Right,
all. So,
right, okay.
But if I'm not needed, you'll know how I feel.
You're always needed, board member Chin. Always needed. But yes, we will move forward with quorum, whatever the best day that is. Okay, any other comments? Right. Is there a motion to move to adopt temporary rule OAR 855-115-0345 as proposed to be effective upon filing.
So move, Board Member Joyce.
Is there a second?
Second, Board Member Smith.
Board Member Kirkbride, yes. Board Member Kroger?
Yes.
Board Member Chin?
Yes.
Board Member Hall?
Yes.
Board Member Joyce?
Yes.
Board Member Maslow?
Yes.
Board Member Smith?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. And thank you again, Executive Director Runyon, for addressing this proactively before we realize that dates are not aligning. So appreciate the extraordinary work on the timing of all this. We will now vote on sending the workforce data collection fee, mailing number B, to the November 2026 rulemaking hearing. Is there any additional board discussion? The fee. Here, okay, I don't see any hands. Is there a motion to move to send OAR 855-110-0005 as proposed to the November 2026 rulemaking hearing?
Move, Board Member Smith.
Is there a second?
Second, Board Member Maslow.
Member Kirkbride, yes. Board Member Kroger?
Yes.
Board Member Chin?
Yes.
Board Member Hall?
Yes.
Board Member Joyce?
Yes.
Board Member Maslow?
Yes.
Board Member Smith?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. We will now review and discuss proposed rules for mobile pharmacies, mailing B1 with staff member Evermoff. Thank you, Executive Director Runyon.
This is staff member Efremov. Thank you for your patience while we transition here to the next topic. Right, again, this is going to be mailing B1 for mobile retail drug outlet pharmacy known as mobile pharmacies with rules located in a newly created Division 145. For ease of discussion, I'll refer to these rules as mobile pharmacy moving forward. Edits to these rules in Division 6 for definitions, Division 7 for public health emergency, and Division 110 fees are also included in the board's review today. In the rules prioritization, these rules would fall under the immediate priority category as the board is reviewed as required to write rules necessary to implement 2026 House Bill 4131. In the board's reference folder, your mobile pharmacy, you'll find the enrolled 2026 House Bill 4131 for mobile pharmacy, associated regulations listed that are referenced in 2026 House Bill 4131, DEA regulations, and NABP model rules for mobile pharmacies. I want to apologize to the public and the board. The proposed rule that was sent as a mailing accidentally put 2026 House Bill 3141, not House Bill 4131. I apologize, we've updated it in the document that we'll be using today. This will be the board's first look at these new rules. The goal would be to align with the bill's anticipated effective date of 1/1/2027. We're hoping to review these today, make any necessary changes to bring back to the board for a second look at October, in hopes to send to a November rulemaking in order for adoption at the December board meeting with an anticipated effective date of 1/1/2027. It's important to note the rules today we're reviewing have proposed changes. They appear slightly different than our normal setup. We're trying to comply with the federal accessibility standards and will continue to revise our processes slightly moving forward to ensure compliance. For our review today, proposed new rules will be bold and underlined, and a highlighted section will indicate a change is being proposed. Also, it's important to note that Division 6 is currently open for rulemaking, as is Division 110. So when we file rules, changes related to MPJE,
and pharmacy prescription lockers and mobile pharmacies will all be filed together in these same divisions as required by Secretary of State. We have provided the rules in this format, so as the format that they will be filed, so hopefully this doesn't cause too much confusion. We will continue our standard rule review process. I will lead a round robin for each section of our discussion or policy section to allow each board member to be able to provide input. After everyone is given an opportunity to speak, I will then ask for any further thoughts, comments, or input from any board member prior to moving on to the next section. In an effort to be mindful of those joining us virtually, I will try to ensure that only one person is speaking at a time so the conversation can be clearly heard. Please do not forget to lean into your microphones when speaking. Now let's begin the review of the proposed mobile pharmacy rules. We will not necessarily review the rules in chronological order. We'll review them in the order that makes the most sense related to the primary topic. Also, it's important to note that there are many specific requirements in law, and to ensure the board does not impose any rules that are in conflict with the new law, we have added notes in the comment boxes with the applicable language articulated in 2026 House Bill 4131. All right, we are start with the first division. Division 6 is definitions. At the June board meeting, the board had directed staff to ensure that the next time we updated the division section to please place all definitions in alphabetical order for ease of review. We've identified that there was more than one definition that needed included in this update. So currently the proposed rules have several changes to the numbers starting on number 30. Then we move to number 32. Statute does not provide a definition for a mobile pharmacy, but staff has proposed a definition that is in alignment with the board's standardized process and in alignment with the statute requirements. Number 32 reads, mobile retail pharmacy drug outlet or mobile pharmacy means a retail pharmacy that provides services in a movable or portable setting and that is registered in accordance with OAR 855-145. As you can see, the remaining changes in this section are related to the number changes and the new MPJE definition that is moved to rulemaking at the June board meeting. But it's also important to note that that number has now changed also. So at this time, we will proceed with board discussion, starting with Board President Kirkbride.
Thank you for making that change in the definitions. It does make it easier to follow in alphabetical order. Related to our topic today of mobile pharmacies, and after kind of reading through the various components, have we contemplated a scenario where a mobile pharmacy might not be connected to a retail pharmacy? Does it have to be retail pharmacy? Could it be a hospital pharmacy or one of our other registrants?
Staff member Efremoff, I think we'd have to look at the statute again. My recollection is that it has to be a retail drug outlet of a certain type. Give me 1 second. Yes, so section 2(1) of the law of House Bill 4131 says the State Board of Pharmacy shall issue a license to operate a mobile pharmacy to an applicant that is a retail drug outlet registered under ORS 689-305 with a permanent physical location, and that meets other criteria. So it would have to be a retail drug outlet.
So the statute is limiting us
Correct.
in our ability to expand that to other registrants. Okay. That's all I had.
Vice President Kroger?
No comments, thank you.
Board Member Joyce?
Board Member Joyce, thank you for that comment, for President Kirkbride. That does, limit some possibilities. It's unfortunate, so thank you.
Board Member Smith?
Board Member Smith, no comments at this time.
Board Member Maslow?
Board Member Maslow, no comments.
Board Member Chin?
No comments, thank you.
And Board Member Hall?
Member Hall, no comments particularly about what was, mentioned, but I did notice under the registration portion that it does list that a hospital retail drug outlet pharmacy registered with the board with a permanent physical location may apply for a mobile pharmacy registration if it is. And then it goes on to say hospital, federally qualified health center. So is that like if they have a retail?
Staff member at Vermont, yes, that is our understanding.
Other comments? Thanks.
Thank you. And we can always come back and revisit definitions because I know it's usually easier after reading all the rules to really go back and make sure the definition is applicable to that. So we will move on to the next section then. Thank you for the feedback and discussion. Next section is 855-145-0001 applicability. This is a pretty straightforward section. It's just to help point out where the definition of mobile pharmacy is located and to reference generally where these requirements come from in 2026 House Bill 4131. It reads, these rules apply to all mobile pharmacies as defined in OAR 855-006 and outlined in 2026 House Bill 4131. So we will do another round robin discussing the sections of rules, starting with Board Member Kroger.
No comments. Thank you.
Board Member Joyce,
There's no comments for this section. Thank you.
Board Member Smith,
Member Smith, no comments.
Board Member Maslow,
Member Maslow, no comments.
thank you. Board Member Chin,
No comment, thank you.
thank you. Board Member Hall,
Board Member Hall, no comment.
and Board Member Kirkbride.
Wrapping it up with no comment.
Thank you. Now we'll kind of get into the meat of things a bit more. Moving on to 855-145-0005. This is the registration section. I think it might be helpful to start with review of the applicable regulation and law. So we did touch upon this a little bit already. Section 2(1), the State Board of Pharmacy shall issue a license to operate a mobile pharmacy to an applicant that is a retail drug outlet registered under ORS 689-305 and with a permanent physical location with that Pren A is one of the following entities. So we have a critical access pharmacy as defined by the Oregon Health Authority by rule. Pren B, a hospital as defined in ORS 442015, a federally qualified health center or the governing body of a county. It has to pay the licensure fee established by the board by rule, and it must meet other requirements established by the board by rule. So the rules currently that that is being proposed to the board today state Pren 1, a retail drug outlet pharmacy registered with the board under ORS 689.305 with a permanent physical location may apply for a mobile pharmacy registration if it is, and again, this just mirrors what statute says. So Pren A through Pren D is just word for word what is in statute. And then the remaining proposed rules are standard clarifications that are necessary to clarify related to the registration of a drug outlet. Pren 2 reads, a retail drug outlet pharmacy must register each mobile pharmacy separately with the board. Pren 3, a retail drug outlet pharmacy must receive a mobile pharmacy registration prior to conducting business as a mobile pharmacy in Oregon. And Pren 4, the registration for a mobile pharmacy expires March 31st each year and may be renewed annually. We were just syncing the dates up with other retail drug outlets. So we will open it up for board discussion, starting with Board Member Joyce.
No comment at this time. Thank you.
Board Member Smith,
Board Member Smith, no comment this time.
Board Member Maslow,
Board Member Maslow, no comment.
Board Member Chin,
No comment, thank you.
Board Member Hall.
Board Member Hall, I was just curious what the turnaround time would be if someone was applying for a mobile pharmacy registration.
That is a good question. So currently, we obviously need to get some rules put on the books and issued. From there, there will also be an application that has to be created. So we'll try to simultaneously, as this moves, getting ready for October, hoping to have prepared for our Go Live 1-1, have an application available on the website for individuals to be able to fill out. Things vary greatly. Again, if we're talking about a completed application, someone providing all of the information they should. I don't know what our turnaround time is. I would have to ask our licensing rep, but I know they've been pretty speedy when it comes to outlets that don't have necessarily disciplinary action or other things that are disclosed that need to be looked at, or if they are waiting to get other documents. So if it's a complete application with no concerning history that needs to be reviewed, those usually do get processed fairly quickly. Sorry, that was a non-answer answer. Thank you. Other questions? For all, okay. Board Member Kirkbride?
Could we review the Oregon Health Authority definition of critical access pharmacy? Do you have that?
Yes, so it, I don't know if you can pull it up. It is in the board members folders for the teams. So we had sent in the references for the mobile pharmacy. We have all the citations that are listed here.
Can you give me this?
Yes, you can just have one.
No, I can't.
Oh, is it easier just
I
to?
can't, I'm gonna, not the right version. So can you give me the statute?
Yeah, could you hold, please? We'll look into that. Give me 1 second, I gotta pull it up.
The board members can look on their iPad. but I can't.
Okay. So for critical access pharmacy, you're gonna be looking at OAR 431.
OAR or an OR?
OAR.
Oh, hang on. Uh-huh.
OAR 431, 121, 2000.
Hang on.
Is the definition. You did say for critical access pharmacy, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
401. Say it again.
431,
Oh, got it.
121, 2000. Is the definitions, and you'll go down to paren 4. And you can see on the screen is the very long definition of what a critical access pharmacy is.
And that language regarding critical access pharmacy is coming from the statute. So we can't change that.
Right, let me just pull that up again. From the statute, it says, yes, a critical access pharmacy as defined by the Oregon Health Authority by rule. So we would have to use Oregon Health Authority's rule.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, my concern is, there could be all kinds of different reasons, disasters, emergencies, that we would need a mobile pharmacy. And I would imagine there might be scenarios where some pharmacies will be excluded because they perhaps don't meet the critical access definition. And, you know, as a board member, I would want access to be more universal so that any pharmacy, I mean, it's already limited by retail pharmacy, but any retail pharmacy could register one. So I don't think there's anything we can do because it's in statute, but that is also unfortunate that access is already limited by this definition. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Staff will take those notes and see if there's any further information we can maybe assess and provide at a future board meeting. Vice President Kroger.
Board Member Kroger, no concerns here, but I think in the event of like an actual emergency, I think there is carve outs,
In 007.
correct? Or
Right.
Staff Member Effernoff, we will be looking at those because now that there is a definition in law that says what a mobile pharmacy is, we will have to relook at and address that we have a different definition and different requirements in Division 7. So yeah, I understand we'll need to do some more research in that situation. Thank you. Great feedback. I believe we start with Joyce. Okay, great. We will move on. Any other discussion on this section? We'll move on to 855-145-0010. This is going to be our initial and renewal applications. This section is standardized with necessary tenants to communicate with licensees and potential licensees regarding requirements on applications and renewals. This language is an updated version of an application section, as we have not updated the application section in a standardized formats for drug outlets yet. So this will look slightly different than other current drug outlets on the books currently. We have incorporated feedback and comments from previous board discussions in this section and from licensees to provide clearer updated language. Paren 1 reads, the board may issue a registration to an outlet that submits an application in a form prescribed by the board. Paren 2, an applicant must provide the following information in order for an initial or renewal application to be considered complete. Paren A is a completed application in the form acceptable to the board. Paren B, payment of the fee as listed in OAR 855110. Paren C, evidence of a current retail drug outlet pharmacy registration with the board and current physical location. And paren D is name of the pharmacist in charge of the associated retail drug outlet pharmacy. I apologize. I think in the document that we had sent out, we forgot to put the word associated retail drug outlet here. So that has been updated and reflected here currently. And for paren 3, there does require a board policy discussion. I would ask that the board first go around to discuss this section of the policy first, and then we'll do the full remaining section. So currently, paren 3 reads, a full description of a mobile pharmacy. The description must include the following. Paren A, security and alarm system description. Paren B, physical location where stored. And paren C, planned geographic area of service. Staff is seeking this discussion because we want to understand what information does the board need for a mobile pharmacy application. Current pharmacy applications require the following: a copy of the resident state registration and most applicable inspection report if applicable, disclosure of disciplinary action or any criminal action, the PIC name and signature, a up-to-date floor plan of the facility to include location of sinks, refrigerators, windows, and doors, and secured access point locations. So at this time, we will go around and ask the board to provide information related to the policy discussion on what information does the board need for a mobile pharmacy application. And we are going to start with Board Member Smith.
Board Member Smith, is there a way we could language to in addition to the what's needed for the retail pharmacy in there somewhere, and then list the other that are required for the mobile pharmacy beneath that? I don't know if that'd make it more complicated or not.
Definitely. Staff member Afimoff, I think the question at hand is, do you need all that information? So kind of using the retail as an example. Sorry if I didn't make that clear. It's just an example of what we ask for on a retail drug outlet. So thinking of a brick and mortar location, and then thinking about a mobile unit, what information does the board want the licensee to provide so that you know it's appropriate to license them, and in consideration of the other regulations that are placed in law that you have to make sure that they are compliant with.
Yeah, no further comment this time. Thank you.
We can come back to you, Board Member Maslow.
Board Member Maslow, definitely agree that maybe a critical component would be the security and alarm description, since this would be moving or portable pharmacy. Maybe one other consideration would be in the event that it became inoperable, maybe what strategy would be in place to ensure drug storage and security. That may not be as applicable to a portable pharmacy, but certainly to a moving pharmacy. I think that would be just one consideration I could think of.
Thank you for that. Board Member Chin.
Remember, Chin, I don't have any additional comments at this time.
Board Member Hall.
Member Hall, I agree with the security description of some sort. Physical location where stored. Just imagining the medications stored in there all the time. What if it's empty? Do we care where it is if it's empty? I wouldn't, so I don't know. Just been thinking about that. And geographic area of service, so that I suppose could change. Does it matter if they decide to go somewhere else outside of what they plan, where they plan to go? I don't know if that's Then are we talking about the comments on the side about the sinks and everything?
Staff Member Hoffman, if you believe that any of those examples that we use for retail should be included on here, yes, please speak up. But they might not be applicable for this type of registrant.
I see name probably.
I believe we do have that.
Just feel like if they already have a retail license, then I don't know if we necessarily need copies of all that and the disclosures again. I feel like all that should be in file. Man, I don't really care too much about that. I mean, it is important that there's a sink, but I don't care where it is, I suppose. And then, yeah, just to make sure it's secure.
Thank you for that. Just a follow-up question. So do you mind scrolling back to the rules just a little bit? Just to be clear then, agreeing with security and maybe instead of physical location where stored, you're more concerned with where the drugs are stored. So physical location of where drugs are stored, perhaps, if any, and then removal of planned geographical area of service if we were to look at it from the rule. Currently, is that an accurate summary?
Hall, yeah, I mean, for the geographic, I just don't want to limit. There's already limitations on the definition, so I just, yeah, didn't want to limit too much. And then, physical location of the mobile pharmacy, I mean, if there's nothing in it, we need to know where it is, but we do need to know where the medications are, and that they're stored properly.
Gotcha. So physical location of the mobile pharmacy, if drugs are stored in it, we would
Yeah.
need to know. Otherwise, they should be in the retail drug outlet.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you for that clarity. I appreciate that. Board member or board president Kirkbride.
My feedback, I think that this is too onerous on the application. I would rather see us address requirements and rules. So, there's a rule that you need to keep your pharmacy secure. There's a rule for how you store drugs, like those already exist. And we're talking about an entity that already has a retail drug outlet license and is presumably complying with those things for their brick and mortar pharmacy. I would rather see us give them requirements they need to meet and not have all of this in an application. And I think that's kind of similar to how we approached the PPLs. So like, we didn't have all these specifics about like, what is your alarm system? Like, you need to keep it secure. So I would be in favor of removing all of this. I was contemplating ABC. I was contemplating Board Member Hall's question as well, trying to imagine all the different scenarios where a mobile pharmacy would be used, and would there be a case where you would store it somewhere off-site and it would have drugs in it. I think of them more as there's a time when you're going to use it and you stock it up, and then that stuff comes back to the pharmacy. But I don't know that there might not be a case like that. So I do think that is probably covered by them needing to secure drugs. But I just don't know that this needs to be in the application. I am fine with the other language in 4. I just don't like all of the ABC stuff. Thank you.
Sounds good. Step Member Hoffman, we are aware of in times when mobile pharmacies were utilized, they were stored with drugs in them. So that is something that does occur when we get in rural areas. They might not be able how far away from the pharmacy they are, depending on if it's inclement weather, other things. So that's something to keep in mind. And also that this is a mobile unit, so it is going to operate and have to operate differently than a brick and mortar, but not related. Obviously, same tenants, but different application. And again, if these are not needed on an application, less work for staff to do also. So that is received well. Vice President Kroger.
Board Member Kroger, thank you. I agree with the other board member comments and their concerns. I do have a question on the security and alarm system description. Are alarm systems required at any other outlet? I didn't see that in the rest of our rules, so I wouldn't want to have more strict security requirements for this than.
Yeah, so staff member Efremov, not currently, it is the secured language, but we wanted to, just for the board to contemplate too, since this is a mobile unit, it is not going to by nature be as secured as a brick and mortar or ability to be as secured, that a mobile unit would have more ability to potentially be accessed. And would typically, I mean, every car you drive today has an alarm on it, right? There's very few cars that don't have alarms that are security alarms. It seems to be a standard with a mobile unit in general. So just something to think about in a different way.
Understood. I think I would prefer the language to be a bit more general with appropriate security requirements to prevent the theft, loss, or destruction of drugs, something along those lines, as opposed to creating a new requirement for an alarm, which that may be what 100% of these units use, but I don't want to potentially limit it if they have other security requirements that are sufficient, but not necessarily an alarm.
Just one follow-up question too related to this. Are you in favor then with keeping some, again, this is application, this is information that they would be required to submit as part of the application. Did you want to keep some kind of security description, or are you would like them to submit something? Sorry, see you had nod.
I think it's fine for a description of like how it will be secured. I just don't know if security and alarm system, what if they have some other system that they're using that's not an alarm, right? But is still sufficient to prevent, theft or loss in some manner.
Thank you. And your thoughts on B and C, are they needed? Sorry.
I generally agree with the other board member comments on this is tricky, right? Because the physical location where stored could be multiple different locations ultimately. Same with the planned geographic area of service. I don't know if I understand, like, we want to kind of know where these things are in general, right? For our ability to ensure that they're secure and appropriate, but I don't necessarily have great suggestions on how we obtain that information without making it so onerous when it comes to applying.
Thank you very much. Board member Joyce?
Board member Joyce, so in terms of A, B, and C, I mean, I agree that they should include those. But I also had an additional question. I don't know if we'll cover that later. Is there an area where they do non-sterile compounding that we may need to inspect?
So staff member Efremov, so the way that our rules are separated currently, whoever does compounding would still have to follow Division 45. So it's section on its own. It relates to
Not 45 anymore, 183.
183. I'm so sorry. Times move so fast. Sorry to the public for that. So we can reassess that also if we need to make any adjustments to this, but I think they're probably, we have not contemplated, since it is a retail drug outlet, there potentially could be compounding on it and what that looks like. So I appreciate that. We will do a further analysis of that to see if we need to incorporate anything further in here that might state like a one-liner that if you do compounding, you are required to follow the rules in Division 183, if that is something the board would be interested in.
I'm not sure. I mean, when you think about a mobile setting or like a large mobile a truck or what have you, you think of cross-contamination with items that may be like used for the vehicle itself. And then, I mean, obviously they would need to keep it clean and things like that. It's to avoid cross-contamination, but that was a concern. If they're going to be doing any non-sterile compounding, you don't want the cross-contamination. And secondly, in terms of planned geographic area of service, I mean,
do we need to have something in rules that talks about the internet stability and communication? Because the feedback I've gotten from other board members from other states when I went to Boston was that their use of mobile pharmacies, they often lost internet access and communication. So, I mean, I don't know how we are gonna address that in rules, but that was one of their biggest concerns. And then, it can be a setback in terms of record keeping as well. When you're trying to keep everything up to date electronically with record keeping and internet access and things like that. But yeah, those were just my concerns. But in terms of these A, B, and C, I mean, I support some kind of documentation and then for inspections for those things. So
Thank you. I appreciate all that feedback. Staff will make sure to bring back to the next discussion something regarding potentially. We are a very rural state. So of course, there's going to be areas where that doesn't exist. So if you do want to address that, we'll add a line item for that to be addressed. We'll add a line item for compounding to be addressed, and we'll bring that forth in future discussions. Thank you. Board Member Smith, did you have any additional thoughts?
Board Member Smith. So this is always going to be tied to a brick and mortar pharmacy. There's not going to be a separate entity that is like running a pharmacy out of an RV or something like that.
Correct. There should be a retail brick and mortar pharmacy that is required to be registered with the board for them to even be able to operate or run a separate mobile pharmacy registration.
Okay, so I'm trying to like wrap my head around this still a little bit. And I think kind of almost treating this like I'm not sure if I think board member Kirk Brad maybe said this, but kind of treating it like the PPLs a little bit. I think
our DSPs.
Yeah, this would be helpful. So that's all.
Thank you. So it sounds like I hear different thoughts on this. Less is best, potentially. Security seems to be something everyone cares about. Rules are going to account for that too, but perhaps adding some kind of requirement on the application so they can indicate what type of security or security description is maybe something the board is interested in. So what we can do is we can do another round robin to ask for clarity since everyone's added their feedback, or we could just take what we have and provide a couple options in the next review. I don't know how strongly you all feel at this time. I know some people want no additional information needed can be an option we give. Option number 2 could be just with security and bring those back next time and the board can think about what additional things, because I do think it's probably going to be important to read the rest of the rules to kind of get a feel for what you need. So maybe we'll do that for now and we'll move down to paren 4 then. This is the last section and then we'll go around again for the full section. So paren 4, an application is incomplete when it is missing required information. An incomplete application will expire 90 days from the date the application was submitted to the board. An applicant who allows their application to expire may reapply by submitting a new application along with required documentations and fees. This current language is standardized on applications at this time, but we felt it was important to be consistent and transparent by articulating this in rules so that everyone can be aware of this potentially before they even apply or go to look at the application. So at this time, looking at the whole section of applications, doing a round robin, we will start with Board Member Maslow.
Board Member Maslow. Sorry, to clarify, this is to comment on this section. In
the whole section. Yep, 1, 2, 3, 4, all of them. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions.
Just that I agree with the previous discussion with the required components in the application and that the physical location was stored and the point below it, the demographic area of service, that may not be fully necessary. I just want to emphasize that the security would be my main concern and that would be the main difference, I would think, between a brick and mortar physical location. So I think that would be the point to emphasize with the application.
Thank you, appreciate that. Board Member Chin.
Board Member Chen would concur with Board Member Mansell and the others who have talked about simplifying. And I like the idea of trying to sort of mirror the PL language that we finally landed on so that it wasn't so prescriptive. Definitely want some idea of the security, but I don't know that the word alarm needs to be in there either. And I don't think we needed B and C particularly.
Thank you. And just one point of clarification, PPLs are not a separate registration any longer. So we might be referring to an application that used to exist anymore, but no longer is required.
But I was referring to the current state of PPLs being connected to the drug outlet.
Gotcha. And so currently the
I
way
understand it's different.
the way the
Okay, so,
law is written.
I get it. Thank you, good Board Member Chen. Okay. In the spirit of the language. Of the TPL, but also, since this is a separate registration, I assume that we'll also be doing separate inspection processes and different inspection forms and all that stuff for this later on too. Okay.
All right, Board Member Hall.
Member Hall, I agree with what's been said about B and C, agree with some security information, doesn't need to say alarm. Application not complete or incomplete, number 4, I just turnaround time was my question, you know, if one gets notified 6 weeks after their application, gives them a little less time, so just making sure that people have enough time, turnaround time to complete their application, but if it's not that complex, then it shouldn't be an issue.
Thank you. Appreciate that feedback, and we will make sure to be mindful of it also. President Kirkbride.
I don't have anything additional to add at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Vice President Kroger.
Nothing additional, thank you.
Board Member Joyce.
So, maybe I should know this already, but will there be controlled substances in these?
We will definitely talk about that in just a moment. So I'm gonna let you have anticipation
Gotcha.
build up a little bit longer.
Sounds good. Can't wait.
Thank you. Board Member Smith.
Board members, no further comment this time.
Thank you, everyone. I think that's great feedback for us to make some adjustments and bring back to the board. So we will now dive into 1450015, the general requirements section. So before we start the review of the rules, again, it is helpful to look at the language in House Bill 4131 so that we know the requirements that are set forth in law. So paren 2, a mobile pharmacy licensed under this section shall have at least one pharmacist physically present at the mobile pharmacy during the mobile pharmacy's hours of operation. Paren B, maintain records of the drugs transferred from the retail drug outlet's permanent location to the mobile pharmacy and of the drugs dispensed from the mobile pharmacy. Paren C, record in the retail drug outlet's records the drugs dispensed from the mobile pharmacy within 24 hours of dispensation. Paren D, store drugs in a manner that prevents diversion and meets any storage requirements specified by the drug manufacturer. It's important to note here that this is more stringent than our current rule in 1036 that allows you to do manufacturer or as USP. This only permits via the drug manufacturer. E, store all drugs, devices, and related supplies in compliance with requirements adopted by board rule. F, store and handle any controlled substances in compliance with requirements established by the DEA related to storage of controlled substances by mobile pharmacies and with any rules adopted by the board. Paren G, establish and maintain a patient communication plan to ensure that a patient may access refills of the patient's prescription drugs in the event that the mobile pharmacy is unavailable at the time when the patient requires refills. And paren H, establish and maintain a communication plan with each governing body of the local public health authority as defined in ORS 431.003 with jurisdiction over each area in which the mobile pharmacy operates to ensure the pharmacist at the mobile pharmacy complies with any reporting requirements of the local public health authority regarding communicable diseases. Okay, so that was the law. We're now going to move towards what is in rule. Proposed rule currently is paren 1. A mobile pharmacy and its associated retail drug outlet pharmacy must, paren A, have at least one pharmacist physically present at the mobile pharmacy during hours of operation. Paren B, maintain records of the drugs transferred from the retail pharmacy drug outlet's permanent location to the mobile pharmacy and of drugs dispensed from the mobile pharmacy. Paren C, record in the associated retail pharmacy drug outlets records the drugs dispensed from the mobile pharmacy within 24 hours of dispensation. Paren D, store drugs, devices, and related supplies as specified by the drug manufacturer. Paren F, ensure that a patient may access prescription refills in the event that the mobile pharmacy is unavailable at the time when the patient requires refill in accordance with the established communication plan. Paren G, comply with reporting requirements of the local public health authority as defined in ORS 431.003, in which the mobile pharmacy operates regarding communicable diseases. Paren 2, a mobile pharmacy, the pharmacist physically present during its hours of operation and the associated retail drug outlet pharmacy and its PIC must ensure the mobile pharmacy, paren A, follows all applicable retail drug outlet pharmacy requirements in Division 41, follow all state and federal laws and rules. Paren C, utilize adequate safeguards against theft or diversion, and that is the same language that is used in Division 41 that we had updated in recent discussions for others as applicable rules. Paren D, prevents unauthorized access. Paren E, maintains confidentiality of patient information, and paren F, correctly dispenses the prescription. Moving on to paren 3, the PIC of the associated retail drug outlet pharmacy must ensure a pharmacist completes a physical inspection of the mobile pharmacy annually as part of their self-inspection as required by OAR 855-115-0210 paren 1 paren H. This is the same language that we had used in PPLs. Paren 4, the mobile pharmacy may return drugs, devices, and associated supplies to the associated retail drug outlet pharmacy if they were stored and handled in compliance with Division 41 and the drug manufacturer's requirements. Again, very similar language to which we had utilized in the PPL rules. And now for the much anticipated policy discussion in paren number 5. There's additional information that is important for the board to discuss prior to reading paren 5. So currently, DEA regulations do not permit mobile pharmacies to handle, store, or dispense controlled substances. 21 CFR 1301.12 paren A states, a separate registration is required for each principal place of business or professional place at one general physical location where controlled substances are manufactured, distributed, imported, exported, or dispensed by a person. As imposed by the statute, a separate registration would be required for each principal place of business. There are currently exemptions that permit veterinarian practices to allow them to have different transportation setup. And also there's a second exception that outlines the ability for a narcotic treatment program to incorporate a mobile component within its registration without additional separate registration. So at this time, there are no exemptions that apply to pharmacies, including mobile pharmacies. This means that mobile pharmacies would not fall under any of these and could not get a registration from the DEA, from our understanding. A similar situation had occurred with pharmacy prescription lockers, but for a different regulatory reason, because a pharmacist, or as they call them, practitioner, was not at the same physical address on site where the controlled substances were dispensed. The board in that situation wrote a letter to the DEA headquarters asking the DEA to reconsider these regulations or application of these regulations. The board could do the same in this situation here. We could request the DEA to create an exemption or regulations to permit mobile pharmacy to be able to receive, handle, store, and dispense controlled substances. So for this policy discussion, there's two questions that would be helpful for us to be able, for staff to be able to prepare some draft rules. The first question is, what language would you like in rules? Option 1, a mobile pharmacy may not handle, store, or dispense controlled substances. Currently, this is what is listed as a placeholder for paren 5. Or for option 2, we could stay silent and not say anything on it, which is similarly to what the board decided to do in the PPL rules, or pharmacy prescription lockers. Question 2, would you like to send a letter to the DEA requesting reconsideration of registration? So at this time, I'd like to go around and ask board input for this policy discussion first, and then we'll go back and finish this section of general requirements and then do another round robin for that section. So at this point, I believe we are starting with board member Chin.
Member Chen, so I'm just a little bit out of my league on some of this. I don't understand if we're silent and a mobile pharmacy does indeed do controlled substances, are we setting people up for failure and consequently for sanctions, which I would not want to do. Would that, I guess that's my concern about staying silent. And that I'm interested to hear what the people who do this for a living.
Thank you. And would you be interested in sending a letter to the DEA headquarters requesting?
Like we ever hear back from, but sure.
Board member Hall?
Oh, that was my question about the letter we sent about the PPLs. We're still waiting on a response, or did?
We got confirmation that they received it.
Then, I mean, I guess it doesn't hurt. I understand being silent, because we still have to follow federal, law. But it's nice to have it written out and then it's not as confusing for people. I could go either way on that, and then, let's see. On parent little b, one little b, I just didn't know if we wanted records of, medications returned to the brick and mortar.
Yes, we will, if we can just stay on 5 first to get everyone's input, we'll
Oh,
go back and
sorry.
do them all. No, it's quite all right. I wrote that down. We will make sure to address that, appreciate that feedback.
We're only commenting on the bottom, not at the top.
Just number 5, related to controlled substances for the policy discussion. Thank you. Board President Kirkbride?
I think we should stay silent to kind of mirror what we did with EPL, and it's the entity's responsibility to adhere to our rules, which include federal rules. I don't think we should use staff time to send a letter to the DEA. Thank you.
Vice President Grover?
Board member Kroger, I lean towards staying silent on this, but, when I think about it, it could also say a mobile pharmacy may not handle, store, or dispense controlled substances without the appropriate DEA registration. Because what I could see is if we stay silent, would an outlet think that their DEA registration at the brick and mortar is also applicable to the mobile pharmacy? But we don't know if and when the DEA may update their rules. And the last thing is I would want for that to be allowed and our rules to be out of date, if you will. So if we can just like, yeah, you can do this if you get the appropriate registration. And right now you can't, so, but when that day comes, you know, go for it.
And would you like to send a letter to the DEA requesting?
Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Joyce?
Board Member Joyce, yeah, this is a bit tough, but, you know, stay silent, really no consequences from that. And in terms of the letter, I think, maybe we should, fly Executive Director Runyon to DC, directly to the DEA office and hand deliver the letter, and give him presentation. Yeah, I'm pro letter, but.
Board Member Smith?
Board Member Smith, I agree with staying silent, and I think we should send a letter. Thank you.
Board Member Mansell?
Member Maslow. And so I work in a rural area and I see the intent of this mobile pharmacy as improving access. And so it's hard for me to, not that it's within our ability right now, but it's hard for me to not be able to dispense controlled substances because to me, that would be a half-hearted effort at improving access in these areas. For many conditions, there aren't necessarily alternatives to controlled substances as they do have legitimate medical purposes to be used. So I guess for one, I would be in favor of a letter, but really I would be just in favor of something that may be effective in changing this. And then to leave it silent or include it, I would be in favor of including it here just to be clear with pharmacies that want to have this as an option, because I think every mobile pharmacy would ask this question. I think it's better to be clear from the start than to leave that question in their mind.
Thank you. So it sounds like perhaps on the next revision, we will provide two options again. It seems like the majority is to have something there, potentially with the language of adding the additional cannot handle, store, or dispense controlled substance without an appropriate DEA registration. So we can put that as an option, and another option to potentially stay silent so board members can think about this throughout the time. And it does sound like the majority is for us to draft a letter, and I understand we will try to also look and leverage other resources we have to try to at least have our perspective heard regarding the need of controlled substances in those rural communities and the utilization of this on a mobile unit. We will try our best to see if there's any other avenues besides a letter that we can do that. So thank you for all the feedback. That is super helpful. We'll make some updates for the next revision. And then the last number in this section is paren 6. A mobile pharmacy registration is not transferable and the registration fee cannot be prorated. So at this time, we will go back through all of the section, paren 1 through paren 6. So all comments on the whole general section. And it looks like we are actually starting with board member Hall. So this is good timing. Did you want to reiterate, if you don't mind, for 1B?
I didn't know if we wanted to, have record of medications returned to the retail pharmacy from the mobile pharmacy. There was another spot where
Change that.
it states that medications can be returned, but it didn't say record of it. So that was just a comment.
Staff member from a quick question on that too. So do you have any suggested language? Because I think the intention was to have that mean both ways, right? So maintain records of the drugs transferred both from the retail pharmacy to the mobile and back and forth. So maybe, and if anyone has suggested language, we'll take it, but I hear the intentionality was for that. So we can work on that later to update that.
Member Kirkbride, what about maintaining records of the drugs transferred between the retail pharmacy drug outlet and mobile pharmacy?
Perfect. Thank you. And back to board member Hall. Thank you for that quick diversion. Other thoughts?
Board member Hall, little e. I agree with what it says, but I don't know if it needs to be there.
Staff member from this is straight from the law.
Got it.
Yeah.
Then that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Board President Kirkbride?
I like here in little c that it addresses, that's kind of what I was looking for security. addressing it in the rule and not necessarily describing it in the application. But I'm okay if we end up with something simple in the application. I don't have any other comments on this section. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Kroger?
No further comments, thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Joyce?
Board Joyce, yeah, so this is what I was referring to earlier with, in terms of like communication, because you want to require within 24 hours of dispensation. I'm assuming that can happen, that, you know, medication dispensed and not reported to the retail record, or not recorded in the retail records due to a lack of like internet access or Wi-Fi access. I don't know. That may be too strict, but I see obviously why it's needed. But that's why I kind of addressed earlier dependability of communication and internet access. So yeah.
Thank you, Step Member Efroff. Again, this is something that is in law, so we would have to comply with this. And I hear what you're saying related to if there's internet that is easily capable or can get to a location within 24 hours that has internet signal to be able to transfer those records within the time frame, or they could physically hand them off to if they're going to be in areas where they're not able to have that access. That would probably have to be a business operation decision. Board Member Smith?
First, no comments at this time.
Board Member Maslow?
Board Member Maslow, no further comments.
Board Member Chin?
I don't have any further comments, thank you.
Okay, it sounds like any other comments from anyone else on this section? Not hearing any, we'll keep on going. I did want to make one clarifying point for everyone in the audience today. Also, the pharmacy prescription locker rules that are being updated have not been adopted yet. They are pending rules hearing. So I apologize if there was any confusion or we misspoke in any way, just so that everyone is on the same page. All right, we will move to policy and procedures. 1450020. So staff performed a similar assessment for the policy and procedure section as we did when drafting the proposed pharmacy prescription locker policy and procedure rules. Since Division 41 applies to mobile pharmacies, it makes sense to only add this section, what is required in addition to Division 41, and to clarify that all requirements in Division 41 must apply to a mobile pharmacy. So paren 1, this is the same exact language that is in Division 41 for pharmacies and 143 for PPLs. It's just been slightly tweaked to account for mobile pharmacies and clarify the associated retail drug outlets role. So as read, paren 1 as proposed is the mobile pharmacy, the associated retail drug outlet pharmacy, and its PIC are accountable for establishing, maintaining, and enforcing written policy and procedures for the pharmacy in compliance with federal and state regulations. The written policies and procedures must be maintained at the pharmacy and must be available to the board upon request. Paren 2, the mobile pharmacy and its associated retail drug outlet pharmacy must adopt the following policies and procedures. A, all policy and procedures required in Division 41 made specific to the mobile pharmacy. Paren B, a patient communication plan to ensure that a patient may access prescription refills in the event that the mobile pharmacy is unavailable at the time when the patient requires a refill. Paren C, a communication plan with each governing body of the local public health authority as defined in ORS 431.003 with jurisdiction over each area in which the mobile pharmacy operates to ensure the pharmacist at the mobile pharmacy complies with any reporting requirements of the local public health authority regarding communicable disease. Paren D, a policy and procedure to document records of all drugs, devices, and related supplies transferred between the associated retail pharmacy drug outlets permanent location and the mobile pharmacy. And paren E, policy and procedure to document records for all drugs, devices, and related supplies dispensed from the mobile pharmacy and transfer those records to the associated retail drug outlet pharmacy within 24 hours. So we will review this whole section in its entirety, starting with President Kirkbride. You're back up.
I don't think I have any comments on these. I mean, it's a lot, but all of them are specified in the statute, so I do think it is necessary to call it out, and it does seem clear what would be required, so I don't have anything else to add.
Thank you. Vice President Kroger?
Board Member Kroger, in Kern 1, the written policies and procedures must be maintained at the pharmacy. Is it the mobile pharmacy? Is it the associated drug retail outlet pharmacy, or both? I think clarification might be needed there.
And which would you expect it to be stored at?
I don't know, both, maybe.
Okay, well, maybe ask everyone
Yeah.
to answer that question. Great, that's a great point. I definitely had the same thought when I read it out loud. Board Member Joyce.
Board Member Joyce, yeah. Record keeping, that's a good question. Where does it really need to be? Yeah, I mean, I would think both, but definitely needs to be clarified.
Board Member Kroger, it could just be, must be maintained. And must be made available to the board upon request. So that kind of satisfies, it's just got to be available because we're thinking of situations where this mobile pharmacy isn't operating at all. So I think the policy procedures must be maintained.
Yep. And Staff Member Throck, we're just going to keep this we're not making this change for sure, just putting it up there so everyone can take a look. If you can just strike that potentially and could read it as such, and we'll keep going around. Board Member Joyce, did you have something else to add?
No, I'm just hoping that this is more of like when transactions are made, hoping to it to be in real time. For example, in a hospital setting, when there are adjustments to stock levels and whatnot, in Pixis and in central stock, there are par levels that are adjusted and transactions reported in real time. I don't know how that's gonna be possible necessarily in the mobile pharmacy, but I mean, that's what my hope is. So, thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Smith?
Board Member Smith, yeah, I think just having the written policies and procedures available on request is all that's needed. I mean, they can be stored electronically, but as long as they're able to be, well, that's, I think, the most important thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Maslow?
Board Member Maslow. I guess I would ask the intent of this sentence in the sense that would it be for our benefit in making the request for these records, or conversely, would it be for the benefit of the mobile pharmacy in relation to, let's just say they have maybe more difficulty with access to their electronic records, if for some reason those would go down, and then in that circumstance, would they then be able to access those policies and or procedures to follow? So I guess I just wonder if the intent is for the board's benefit, then yes, I think it's appropriate to just say for it to be maintained. But if the benefit or the intent is for the pharmacy's benefit, for the safety benefit of having those procedures on hand, then I think we would need to specify that they would need to be maintained at the mobile pharmacy.
Thank you for that feedback. We will move to Board Member Chin.
Board Member Chen appreciates that insight, and it makes sense to me that my management doesn't need my policies and procedures, I do. My board doesn't need my policies and procedures, I do. And so it makes, I would assume that all of these policies and procedures are for you, boots on the ground, reading them and going through them if there's a question about something. And so it makes sense to have them on the mobile pharmacy.
Thank you. Board Member Hall.
Member Holly, I agree. Having it, the mobile pharmacy seems to make.
Okay, so we'll maybe at this point switch it back up to, we'll do, if you would prefer, must be maintained at the mobile pharmacy, or to strike this section. We'll just do a quick round robin. Board Member or Board President Kirkbride.
I like the addition of the mobile pharmacy. I think that makes it clear, and I agree that you're working in that setting and you need to reference something that is gonna be a good way to do it, and you may or may not have electronic access to do that. I'm trying to think through a scenario where something in those PMPs needs to be kept at the original pharmacy. I guess the piece about transferring things back and forth relates back to that outlet as well. So D and E both refer back to retail drug outlet. I know it's tricky. I don't really like striking it, but I'm not sure how to word it. But I do think it is important that there should be access at the mobile pharmacy.
So there's 2 points of clarification too. Written policy and procedures can mean that they are electronic too. So they can be physical or they can be written electronically. Either or is what the language is intended to mean here. And the other component is all of the mobile pharmacy, the associated retail drug outlet pharmacy, and the PIC have to establish, maintain, and enforce these policy and procedures. What we're asking about here is where are they to be maintained? So if these are, or maybe that's a helpful way to think about it too, that it's already incorporated the responsibility of the retail drug outlet, but understanding too that they might need access to such to know what to do with it. Vice President Kroger.
Board Member Kroger, I don't really care how we get to the end of this conversation, how we end up figuring this out, as long as we are not requiring printed copies of these policies to be maintained on site, and requiring a binder sitting back there. As long as that's not happening, I'm okay with however they choose to maintain it, and have it accessible when needed.
Thank you. Board Member Joyce.
Board Member Joyce, yeah, as long as it's accessible. So a question for, Board Member, Kroger, so you don't like the specificity of having it at the mobile quote unquote mobile pharmacy?
And I think in general, the way it's written currently is unclear as to which location is required to be maintaining and making available. That's why I brought this up. And then my thoughts is there's going to be times where the mobile pharmacy will not be in use, or even like have any, it'll just potentially be an empty thing, vehicle or trailer of some sorts. And then, but we've got an inspector at the associated retail drug outlet asking for those policies and procedures and making that request. And you're like, well, no, it's at the mobile pharmacy, but it's empty. Like, to me, it's unclear the way it's written. To me, these must be maintained and must be available. However, the mobile pharmacy and the associated retail drug outlet decide to ensure that they meet both of those is up to them. If they want to have a binder with these policies and procedures sitting in that pharmacy, great, go right ahead. But I don't want that to be the requirement. They have to figure out how to meet this requirement and make it available. So that's, like I said, I don't know how we get to the end of this. It's not clear right now who's owning it. If it's one or both, or, and or, I don't know.
That sounds good. I think staff can take this feedback and try to come up with a solution, hearing what the intention is, the processes for us to be able to access these, and theoretically or realistically needing to use them in the field. So those are all really good comments to make. I did want to pause for 1 second because I believe AAG Bertoni had something she wanted to share also.
So Board Council Bertoni, I actually wanted to just identify something in section 2A.
Please.
If the board is okay with that. It's the use of the word made. So it says the mobile pharmacy and associated retail drug outlet pharmacy must adopt the following policies and procedures. A says all policies and procedures required in Division 041 made specific to the mobile pharmacy. That made, forgive me, I used to be an English teacher. The passive verb there makes it unclear who's supposed to do the making. I think probably in the drafting process, that was understood to mean that the retail drug outlet pharmacy would probably take its current policies and procedures and edit them as appropriate for the specific mobile pharmacy. But if I were on the other side of this and representing somebody who was being regulated, I might say, well, the board didn't make anything specific in Division 41, right? You didn't go into Division 41 rules and say, well, this one's specific to mobile pharmacies and that one's specific to mobile pharmacies. So my mobile pharmacy had no obligation to do anything. I might suggest changing that to something like as specific to the mobile pharmacy, so that it's clearer that there's not like a passive verb maybe the board is supposed to fill in.
Thank you, much appreciated. Other thoughts? Okay, we will open it back up to the board. Any board members have any additional thoughts on the policy and procedure section? Please, board member Maslow.
Member Maslow, thank you for that clarification on written and what that really means. So, yeah, I see it now as probably duplicative and maybe only causing confusion to have that in there. So I think I would be of the opinion just to remove it, because there's other elements that speak to having those policies and procedures available to staff, no matter what the, that condition is of internet access.
Thank you. Staff will definitely provide some options for the board in the next revision. Any other thoughts? Great. Okay, we will move on to the next section for Division 145. So we're looking at record section now, 0025. For records, a similar process was also utilized. We propose to refer to the other divisions for required records and their retention, and only clarify here additional requirements related to the law that the records are needed to regulate to meet those aspects of the law. So again, it might be easier just to refer back to 2026 House Bill 4131. A mobile pharmacy licensed under this section shall maintain records of drugs transferred from the retail drug outlet's permanent location to the mobile pharmacy and of the drugs dispensed from the mobile pharmacy, and records in the retail drug outlets records records the drug dispensed from the mobile pharmacy within 24 hours of dispensation. So currently what is proposed in rule for the board's consideration, Parent 1, the mobile pharmacy and the PIC must ensure that all records are kept in compliance with Division 104. That's where we have them currently for all pharmacies, for all outlets. Number 2, all required Division 41 records must be maintained. And in addition, Parent A, record of the date and location where the mobile pharmacy conducts business. This is necessary related to the law that requires the board to put limits on the days a mobile pharmacy can operate in a current location and within a 5-mile radius. In order to enforce this regulation, we would need to know the dates and locations that business is conducted. Parent B, record of the pharmacist physically present at the mobile pharmacy during hours of operation. Parent C, record of drugs dispensed from the mobile pharmacy. This record must be stored within 24 hours of dispensation. Parent D, record of drugs transferred between the mobile pharmacy and the associated retail drug outlet pharmacy. Parent 3, these records must be stored on site at the retail pharmacy drug outlet's permanent location and following OAR 855-104, and must be retained as required by OAR 855-104. So we'll open up for the whole section of records for board discussion, starting with Board Member Kroger.
Board Member Kroger, I don't have anything to add. It's pretty straightforward to me, so thank you.
Board Member Joyce?
Or Joyce, can you go down a little bit, like lower than 3, or 3? Okay, right there, permanent location following. Nothing to add to this section.
Thank you. Board Member Smith?
Board Member Smith, nothing to add.
Board Member Maslow?
Member Maslow. I'm just wondering between 2C and 3. So does that mean that the mobile pharmacy, that the drug that is dispensed at the mobile pharmacy, I guess, does that mean to say that that record has to be retained at the at the primary permanent location from dispensing from the mobile pharmacy. I guess I just wonder in terms of application, if there may be barriers to that. Again, just thinking of internet access or access and documenting those records.
Yes, paren C is intended, and we might want to clarify that language now that you've said that, that this record must be stored at the associated retail drug outlet within 24 hours of dispensation. Unfortunately, this is what is in law, so we don't have much flexibility in that section.
Thank you.
Noted, thank you.
They're coming.
Board Member Chin,
Further comments, thank you.
Board Member Hall?
Member Hall, I'm assuming that's why this in, little d, and it states the records just like it did in the other portion that we were talking about under general requirements, but it has to be in bold. Because under general requirements, little b, little b, talking about maintaining records.
Yes, Staff Member Efremov, I can see what you're saying. Are you highlighting that it might be a little duplicative, how some of this flows in the language?
Yeah, I didn't know if it had to be there.
I don't know that it has to be there. I think we were just trying to, again, be as clear as we can related to the law and make sure that we were in compliance with the law as we wrote it. So kind of putting all of those in general so everyone is aware. But to your point, perhaps this lives better in one section or the other, since it's records, maybe it lives better just here and not general, or maybe it's better in general and not records. Would be open to hear board thoughts on that.
Member Hall, I think it's fine under records or general. I don't know, it doesn't matter. But if we're gonna have a records section, we could have it under records. But I wouldn't want to have it in bold. I don't have any other comments.
Thank you. Staff will assess that when we go back after this meeting to see how we could provide some proposed revisions.
It was in 1.5B, right? Okay.
Board President Kirkbride.
I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And we'll pause for any other comments from any board members or English lessons from APG. All right, we will move on to the next section. Great feedback. Thank you. So we're now moving to 1450030 for prohibited practices. So this will be the last section of Division 145. Again, it's helpful to refer to the law. So in 2026 House Bill 4131, paren 3, a mobile pharmacy may not, paren A, operate in the same physical location for more than 10 consecutive days per period determined by the board by rule. Paren B, operate for more than 14 consecutive days per period determined by the board by rule within the same five mile radius. Sorry. And also paren 4, the board shall adopt rules to carry out this section. The rules adopted under this section, paren A, must create exceptions to the limitations described in subsection 3 for declared public health emergencies and declared states of emergency related to natural disasters affecting the area in which a mobile pharmacy operates. Now, that's a mouthful. So we'll go ahead and look at the rules. Again, the rules are pretty much just restating what the law says, but we do have a very important policy discussion that we need the board to discuss. So what time frame does the board think is appropriate to permit a mobile pharmacy to be at a set location? The law requires you to address two different specific circumstances. So as we have teed up for you here, a mobile pharmacy may not, paren A, operate in the same physical location for more than 10 consecutive days per X days, or however you would like to ration that out, but days seems to maybe be the most simplistic. Paren B, operate for more than 14 consecutive days per X days within the same 5 mile radius. So we will pause and do a policy discussion on this section first, starting with board member Joyce.
Okay. I'm trying to understand, I know that's part of the House bill,
the 10 consecutive days, et cetera, and 14 consecutive days, but, what, maybe I'm missing it completely. What's the logic behind this? Am I missing this completely, or what is the logic?
Member Efremov, I am going to make a guess. This is not something I did not listen to the testimony or hear exactly what the intentionality was, but I am going to guess that it is to ensure that they are not necessarily putting up in a parking lot where another retail pharmacy is, right? So it's to make sure that this is being utilized to access and provide services to those that need it in a thoughtful approach, in a thoughtful way, and maybe in a not competing as much manner.
I mean, it just seems really restrictive. And, the board will probably get blamed for this.
And that name is mobile, right? So it is supposed to be mobile, not
Right, but-
another brick and mortar
So
location.
I'm seeing like let's say, a rural area, where there's underserved, like a tribal community, where they may need to be there for a while. So I mean, putting these numerical, restrictions, it's, I don't know, I'm gonna have to pass. On
Sir,
this, I don't want to be blamed.
Board Member Smith, can you start us off?
Board Member Smith, yeah, as we're discussing this, I'm trying to imagine the practical scenarios in which this would work and, when during 2020, I lived in Klamath Falls. I helped out when, I think it was Phoenix, Oregon. I think they're ready burned down in Phoenix, Oregon. If you recall correctly. Yeah, and I went over to Ashland to help out with dispensing, and that would be a situation where, the people really needed a mobile pharmacy. People lost all their medications. The local pharmacies in the surrounding area, there's quite a bit of travel that people had to do, and when you can imagine you've lost all your belongings and that's, you may not have access to a car readily available. So it is kind of, but disasters I see are excluded from this particular situation. The other situation I see is, we have extremely rural parts of the state, with pharmacy deserts, and I imagine that the mobile pharmacy may, make trips out there. But I imagine that when you go to make a trip, it's probably gonna be a scheduled or routine thing, and maybe it's, hey, every Wednesday we drive out to this spot to dispense medications, and then we drive back. And that would I think you would avoid some of the numerical issues here with that. So maybe 10 consecutive days per month might be a good starting spot. My only fear of this is as we're thinking about this and trying to imagine this, and this hasn't really been practically applied yet. There may be instances where this is really restrictive. I can't imagine any right now, but I mean, this is the law and the laws want us to make something, and if I just had to throw something out there, I would say maybe for every 28 days for both of these situations. But if board members have any other input, I'm not that's just my initial gut reaction to this. So that is all. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that thoughtful information. Board Member Maslow.
Board Member Manslow, thank you for that. Board Member Smith. I can appreciate this in the sense that for me, this is encouraging the flow of these mobile pharmacies through different rural communities. And initially, I did think that saying same physical location was a little silly in the sense that you could just move down the street and still be clear of this. But it makes sense when you think that even within a 5-mile area, there may be two different rural communities with access issues between them. So I can understand that. So when thinking about this, I more so phrased it for a mobile pharmacy, how many communities would I want to see it servicing in a month period or just X amount of time? Because for me, I think to say 30 days is reasonable. And with that, you would say, well, this mobile pharmacy is servicing 2 rural communities at minimum in a month, which I feel may not be overly restrictive. to find that balance between, that flow and ensuring you're going to different rural communities and not having an undue administrative burden. And I think one other point to mention with this is, there is that other element that speaks to ensuring timely refills, when providing these services. And I think to bring that around, to frame the two and two together to say, around a monthly refill cycle might be appropriate, just to ensure that both elements are being met.
Thank you. I would ask a follow-up question too for paren B. Would you be proposing 30 days for that section too, or a different number potentially?
Yes, for 30 days. Yes, 14 consecutive days per 30 days. Yes, I was thinking 30 days for both.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that insight. Board Member Chin.
Member Chin could be fine with either the 28 or 30 on both.
Thank you. Board Member Hall.
Board Member Hall, at this time, I agree with the 30.
Thank you. Board President Kirkbride.
To be honorary and say 10 days and 14 days so they can be longer, but not gonna die. I agree with the 30 days. There was some reasons the round number was better, and I think in our documents we often reference. Maybe we reference 28, I don't know, but I like 30. But I appreciate Board Member Smith kicking us off with a number.
Vice President Kroger.
Board Member Kroger, thank you, Board Member Smith, getting us started here. I would go with 28 days to make it like a weekly, calculation. In my mind, like 30 is a nice round number, but thinking of it as like, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off kind of, situation, that would be my preference, but I mean, it's just 2 days we're talking about, so.
Board Member Joyce.
Yeah, that was my initial thought, was 28.
Okay, so we have a 28 as a new offer. Maybe we could go back to Board Member Smith and get the other side of the table to see if they are interested in changing them to 28. Board Member Smith?
Board Member Smith, yeah, I like the 28 days. The reason being is there's, I thought, Board Member Maslow had some good take on the like refill rate of prescriptions. There's some controlled substances that I see the providers write for a 28-day supply. And just, I like that 4-week. It fits nicely, but that's just me. So I'm a 28-day person.
Board Member Maslow?
Remember, Basil, I won't say 29 days.
You can only offer.
I'm in agreement with 28 days.
Thank you. Board Member Chin?
Member Chin, oncology works on 28-day cycles. So I am a 28-day cycle girl.
Thank you. Board
And
Member
all my controlled substances are 28 days.
Member Hall, yeah, 28 sounds better.
Great, thank you. And then we'll just also go to section or in paren 2, subsection 1 does not apply when a public health emergency or state of emergency related to a natural disaster affecting the area where the mobile pharmacy operates has been declared. So with the addition of reviewing this whole section, does any board member have any questions or discussion points for prohibited practice section?
And
Please.
this is Council Bertoni. I just wanted to observe for the board, earlier in the application process, you had concerns or there was discussion about whether it was appropriate to ask what the area is that the mobile pharmacy will serve. But notice that this is part of the statutory requirement, is linking the pharmacy to a specific geographic area to make sure that the pharmacy is kind of, and that's part of the reason it was part of the application rule. So I'm mindful that you'll be thinking about that in future. This will come back to you and you'll be looking at that application piece. But there was a connection there that might be helpful to, if there became an allegation that a retail pharmacy was operating different mobile units and saying, well, I'll do mine for 14 days here, and then I'll do our other unit, we bought a second RV and it's gonna be the other 14 days and sort of operate as a permanent physical presence essentially by running two different vehicles. And so I just wanted to flag that for you. I don't know if I'm like absolutely stunned. One of you looks stunned and the two of you are not. I don't know if that's going through, but just as a thought, that's part of the reason that was in the application rule. I know you're gonna revisit that, but I just wanted to flag it for you for consideration.
Member Kirkbride, and also noted that they do have to report in the records the dates and locations, so that's where I was kind of thinking, do we need it up front when we're going to be getting a record of where they were or are? And my reasoning for not having it up front is I could imagine a scenario where disaster happens. That pharmacy might not necessarily know when they're applying that they could potentially be serving that area. And so how would they, if they have restricted themselves in their application to a certain area and then something happens and they're like, we can do that, we're gonna go. I wouldn't want that holding anyone back when we are gonna get a record of where they're going. So that was where I was kind of advocating for taking it out of the application. But I do see, and this, we're gonna have to think through this. There is a requirement to connect to the local public health department, but does the board need to verify or confirm like, oh yes, you're operating here and you connected to them and that's right? Like, I don't think we're gonna be doing that level of analysis, maybe not the board, but the staff. Yeah, but I think that's all, as we kind of make it to the end of this, looking at the bigger picture of how all these things connect will be important. Thank you.
Wonderful, great thoughts. Does anyone have any other thoughts in general on 145 before we move to Division 110? Yeah, please, Board Member Maslow.
Board Member Maslow. I think I had another word meaning question for Board Council, because that was a that was a good point. So when it states a mobile pharmacy, would the interpretation then be that outfit, even if they have two or three, let's just say vehicles, two or three separate vehicles, would a mobile pharmacy mean it in its entirety? Or would it simply refer to just maybe one of those vehicles?
Let's look at that definition.
So Board Council Bertoni, I believe the intention is that it's one RV, just we'll say, call it an RV, is a mobile pharmacy, it gets its own certificate. But notice that you could buy two RVs and set up two mobile pharmacies and kind of coordinate them.
So per our rules, our proposed rules, but typically how the board would register is that each unit would have to have its own registration. So with that, then would mean or each for it. Any other discussion? Good discussions. All right, we'll move to Division 110. Paren 4, not too sensational here, adding mobile retail pharmacy drug outlet expires March 31st annually, a $315 fee and late renewal fee. So this is just the same as the other retail pharmacy drug outlets. Staff just recommends to mirror that. Also a reminder under new number Paren 8, Paren B little e, staff is proposing to strike the PPL registration as they no longer apply to require a registration of its own. This was previously discussed at the June board meeting with the board, directing staff to send this through the rulemaking process. So you will see that present in this section. So I will open it up for any board discussion on the Division 110 fee sections. Okay, we will keep moving. Oh, yes, please.
I mean, my instinct was that it should be a lower fee than a retail drug outlet brick and mortar. But I don't know, like, can staff speak to why that was staff's recommendation? Are there drop downs that exist with all the fees and it would be easiest and less coding to have this? Curious.
I can answer that.
Go ahead.
Staff Member Melvin, I can answer where that came from. That was the fiscal that we determined when this legislation was being proposed. That's what we submitted.
That makes sense. I do still feel that it should be lower, but I understand the reasoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board members want to add any additional comments to that? Thank you for your input, Board President Kirkbride. Are we ready to move to the next section? Okay, we will move to, we can revisit this again when it comes back in October also. So we'll now move to the last section, which is Division 7, Public Health Emergencies. So now that a law has passed for mobile pharmacies with new different requirements and thus different definitions, staff has proposed to strike mobile pharmacy references in this section of rules, as it does mean something completely different now due to 2026 House Bill 4131. So you will see, you can just scroll through all the sections if you don't mind, Rachel, and then we'll open it up for discussion. So we just renumbered, obviously, we're striking mobile pharmacy, updated a citation that needed to be updated in now paren 11. Keep just kind of scrolling down.
Oh, you mean through the rest of the rules and
Yep,
stuff?
because this will be the end.
Yeah.
Again, striking mobile pharmacy here. Thank you. Yep. And again, just mobile pharmacy in the temporary pharmacy section. Sorry if anyone's getting nauseous. It's almost over. All right, and with that, we will open it up for board discussions, starting with board member, I think it is Smith's turn.
Board Member Smith, no comments on the current things that we're going over. It all makes sense and looks good. Thank you.
Thank you. Board member Maslow.
Board Member Maslow, no comment.
Thank you. Board member Chin.
Comment, thank you.
Thank you. Board member Hall.
Member Hall, under number 5. Says. It's the first number 5 of, under temporary pharmacies.
Go down. Temporary.
Sorry,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I'll take it there. Just a second.
Okay, I'm going to close my
Just,
eyes.
Yeah, stop looking. Just close your eyes for a second.
It says a temporary that is established.
Oh,
Thank you.
I had you.
You are always so good at catching all these things. Thank you.
It's the only one I saw, but nothing else.
Thank you. Board President Kirkbride.
You have a question? I'm okay with striking the definition because we have a new definition, but, in section 0080 for emergency immunization and drug distribution, I don't understand why we are striking a mobile pharmacy here. I think having a mobile pharmacy here is additive and inclusive and seems like this would be the very instance we might use a mobile pharmacy. So I just don't understand why we would strike it from this section. And then there's some fallout from that later where it's stricken as well as related to this topic.
So staff member F. Moth, the intention was because mobile pharmacy will have its own division. If there is a need for it in this situation, it can be done if it is registered appropriately. So it will no longer apply to just emergency situations. Anyone can use it for any of those circumstances. So there wouldn't necessarily be a need for it to be in this section because these were only for in emergency times. So now it can be used during any time and there's an allotment in an emergency in that division. So the more specific would outweigh the general.
But it also lists a chain pharmacy and a hospital pharmacy, which have their own division, so. I would advocate for, it makes sense to me to keep it in here, like if you wanted to do, let's say, emergency immunization, you're gonna go to that section. You're not gonna see you're gonna see a list of places you can do it, but not. I guess this is related specifically to treatment centers, but I just would not want mobile pharmacies to be excluded. Just because the word is there, like, if I'm gonna do an activity, I'm gonna go to the section where that activity is described.
Appreciate the feedback. I think what was raised too in general is how do we address emergency situations? Because back to treatment centers means something else. So it can't just necessarily stay because there's different requirements and different conditions. And so that would have to be addressed more globally. So what we can do is we had taken note to do before is we'll go back and kind of assess what are the allotments potentially or additional scenarios for clarification in an emergency situation. Because I don't think it'll just fit nicely still in the language as it is. We might have to create like a different little section or a section renewable maybe to account for, but I hear what you're saying. Maybe it's better to keep it in the emergency if that's where people are going to look first.
And then I do agree with the changes in temporary pharmacies because that now is a totally separate thing from a mobile pharmacy. And then just updating emergency record keeping as needed or, you know, wherever we head and decide on the emergency piece. But just reading it on the surface, it looks as if mobile pharmacies are excluded from being used for emergency distribution of stockpile drugs and vaccines, which is not our intention, I assume.
Correct. Thank you for that feedback. I will definitely confer with council on some ideas on how we can provide some suggestions for the board at the next meeting. Thank you. Board President Kroger. Oh my gosh, Vice President, at least I didn't call you Kirkberg, I guess.
With all my privileges with my comment.
Board Member Kroger, my only concern with the changes within here is that, and it could just be as simple as clarifying what a temporary pharmacy could be or is not. So what I want to ensure does not happen with the changes here is that say, what was the definition of mobile pharmacy? A vehicle or trailer can still be used as a temporary pharmacy, but it is not a mobile pharmacy because this is only being used in that emergency situation. I don't want it to appear that vehicles and trailers are not allowed because those are covered under the other mobile pharmacy rules and only those pharmacies could be used in an emergency. To me, it could, like a temporary pharmacy may include vehicle or trailer under these circumstances. I don't know how to wordsmith it really, but I hope you kind of get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
And
no, totally do.
I think in the temporary pharmacy, it strikes out mobile facility in Kern 1 versus mobile pharmacy. So I don't know if you know, the intent in ensuring that a temporary pharmacy could also be mobile. I think just some clarifying or wordsmithing to ensure that those are still allowed in these emergency situations.
Thank you. Staff will do a lot more work. You made me see temporary pharmacy in a different light now. So yes, we have a lot of revisiting for Division 7. It sounds like great feedback. Board Member Joyce.
Board Member Joyce, yeah, the semantics, somebody could read, quote, temporary pharmacy and think mobile pharmacy. So, nothing really additional to add, but that was also my train of thought, the semantics with temporary pharmacy and mobile pharmacy.
Wonderful, thank you. Board Member Smith, did we start with you?
I think so,
No.
yeah. Nothing
Okay,
further to add.
Okay, open it up for any other board members now that you've heard what some other board members have said. Do you have any other thoughts or comments related to Division 7 or any section?
This is Council Bertoni. Could you just scroll to Rachel Melvin? Could you scroll down to 7 at the top of the next PDF page? I think I'm in Division 7, 0080.
Up a little, yeah, 7.
And there's too many O's right there.
0080.
Oh, numbers up. Sorry, now going up. Too many O's. Number 7 there, yeah.
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing.
Oh.
This is it.
Just to make sure. So 0080, yeah.
So, it was a minor typo. I don't, 8B, yeah, it's 00807B. So it's on the top of page
7B.
There we go.
Okay.
There we go. It's actually, it's a board member Hill correction, although she didn't catch it. It's line 6766. That word facility should not be struck because the temporary facility.
Oh, right.
Yep, good
Mhm.
eye. Thank you.
Much appreciated. We will definitely be bringing back some additional revisions for this whole section.
We've had a couple of those also,
Okay,
called that too. So
Yeah, and like
we'll
right
just talk
here.
about the
We will.
housekeeping. You don't need to waste more time on
sounds good. Unless we're keeping track on points, who gets more points? Is that what you're trying to compete with board member Hall?
it. I was losing to believe. It's okay.
All right, with that, we've reviewed all of the sections. At this time, staff will take all of the wonderful input, thank you, from the board, and we will make some edits and bring back some options and try to address all of the concerns that have been raised here today at the October board meeting.
Okay, that means it's back to me. We are very close to lunch. Staff member Melvin, do you think we can tackle any of the topics B2 or B3 in the 10 minutes we have?
Staff member Melvin, yes. B2 is simply the board voting to send the temporary rule that you approved earlier for prescribing in Division 115 to the November rulemaking hearing. However, in lieu of your discussion about having a special board meeting, it is not necessary for you to do this today. With the assumption that we are going to convene the formulary committee and then convene the board for a special meeting. I'm going, like I said earlier, I'm gonna have to suspend this temporary rule that I'm gonna file. So I can bring this back to you all in October, and it may look a little different. So your decision, it's not necessary. As we thought it through before this discussion, it was necessary.
That sounds good. Let's
Okay.
not do it twice.
Okay, very good.
And what about, is B3 the same?
B3 is going to be staff member Efremoff's presentation for DSCSA, and I am not sure. Our lunch has arrived, so it is here if you would like to adjourn for lunch. When we come back, we have a special presentation from the board from 1 to 2, and then staff member Efremoff will present the
I think
DSCSA.
that sounds like a great plan. We don't want to rush staff member Efremoff with the exciting topic. So we will go ahead and break for lunch a little bit early. It's currently 11:51, and we will reconvene at 1 p.m. Thank you.